Welcome to the How Good It Can Get podcast, where we dive deep into the transformative journey from surviving to thriving. Join me, your host, Andrea Rice, on this empowering exploration of mindfulness, spirituality, and unlocking your full potential. Let me show you just how good it can get. Hello and welcome back to How Good It Can Get. I am your host, Andrea Rice, and before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to a couple people. One, I wanted to give a shout out to Dawn here in Virginia Beach. She has a place called Spiritual Relics. She offers all kinds of services and crystals, things like that. She recently had me on her show and is now carrying my book, Vibrational Mastery, a high vibration is your superpower. Thank you, Dawn. That was so kind and generous of you. I also want to give a shout out to DJ Larry Jones from the Power Hour. The Power Hour podcast is amazing. He's putting a lot of good vibes out into the universe, a lot of positivity, and he's asked me to come back on his show, and I'll be doing that here shortly. And we also now, on How Good It Can Get, are in 8 countries. I can't even believe that this little podcast has reached people all across the world. So thank you, everyone who's listening everywhere. Today, I want to talk about Ho'oponopono. And that's quite a lot to say. And if you haven't heard about it, I think you'll find it fascinating. So I got my Reiki training here in Virginia Beach at a place called the Reiki Wellness and Meditation Center. It's an amazing place for all things healing Reiki. It's just wonderful. And when I was getting ready to do my Reiki Master training, you have to write an essay and you come in and you do a practicum. And it was during that practicum that I first heard about Ho'oponopono. So I was doing my practicum with Eric at the Reiki Center, and we were just having a conversation, and I had expressed something that recently had happened that was not a pleasant experience for me. And what he said to me was, "I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you." And I was like, "What? What is that?" And he said, that is the Ho'oponopono prayer, because now that you have expressed that to me, it has now appeared in my reality, and it is now my responsibility to clear that. So because I had experienced something, I'm thinking it's mine, I experienced it. But the second I shared it with Eric, it also became his responsibility. And he explained to me, there's this book called Zero Limits, and have I read it? And I said no. And he starts telling me about this book, Zero Limits, and it hooks me. It hooks me instantly. So before I go into detail about what Ho'oponopono is, I'm going to tell you what he told me that just fascinated me and hooked me from the get-go. So it's a story about Dr. Len, and he worked in a hospital in Hawaii that was for the criminally insane. I mean, this place was less than a desirable place to work, to put it mildly. This staff would routinely call in sick. They didn't want to be there. When people would walk through the ward, they would walk with their backs to the wall because they were afraid of being attacked by the patients. And Dr. Len worked there for 3 years. And during that time, he never saw patients professionally or counseled them, but he healed every single patient in that hospital. And I was like, well, how did he do that? So he would review the patient's files, and when he looked at the files, he would work on himself. And he would ask himself, what is going on in me that I have caused this problem to materialize, right? Because now that he's aware of the problem from reviewing the files that these patients have, it is now his responsibility to clear it within himself, clean it within himself. And he would ask himself, what is going on in me that I have caused this problem, and how can I rectify this problem in me? Because to change them, you must change yourself. And this whole concept really captivated me. And as soon as I left Eric's office, I immediately went out and bought the book Zero Limits, because I had to learn more. Like, how in the world did this guy go into a mental hospital and cure all of the patients, to the point that the hospital was eventually shut down because they didn't have any patients left? I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff. And he did it by not ever seeing a single one of them in a counseling or professional manner. He did it by working on himself, looking at their files. So the underlying concept of Ho'oponopono is that everything in your life, everything, because it has shown up in your life, is your responsibility. Everything. If you take complete responsibility for your life, everything you see, everything you hear, everything you come in contact with, right? Like what I said, Eric was taking responsibility for something that happened in my life because it was now presented to him, and now it was a part of his reality. Even though it didn't directly happen to him, it became a part of his reality because I told it to him. And it is your responsibility to heal it within yourself, because it is showing up in your life. And everything you experience is inside of you. If you want to change anything, you do it inside, not outside. And the idea is total responsibility, a total personal responsibility for everything in the world that shows up in your reality. And there's no one to blame, no one. All responsibility for every conscious experience lies within you. And that's the underlying belief when it comes to Ho'oponopono. And once you notice the problem, it is your responsibility to, what Dr. Len says, is clean the problem. He says you must always be cleaning. And let me put a little disclaimer in right here. I'm relaying to you what I know about Ho'oponopono, but it's also my understanding that what has been put out either on the internet or in books like Zero Limits, where they give you a lot of background and detail and story. There's a lot more to it that you just don't know unless you take their training and certification. So right now, what I'm telling you is just the very basics, but just the basics is mind-blowing. Really, it is. So Dr. Lin explains that there are only two ways to live life, okay? It's either from memory or from inspiration. And memories are just old programs replaying. And inspiration is the divine giving you a message. And the only way to hear the divine is to clean the memories out. We must always be cleaning. And one way that is repeated throughout the book is, in order to clean, what you say is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And that's what we were talking about earlier when I said it's a process of repentance, forgiveness, and transmutation. So basically you're saying, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that I had a role to play in this. Please forgive me, right? And now I am going to clear this. Thank you. I love you. And they do mention throughout the book that even just saying I love you over and over is very powerful. Even if you don't say, the 4 statements, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Just saying I love you repeatedly is transformative, powerful statement, and it can transmute the energy. And that's something that really struck me with Ho'oponopono, because There are different modalities. There's Reiki, there's meditation, there's sound healing, there's vibrational mastery. I think what really struck me with the whole concept of Ho'oponopono is that a lot of these things are interconnected, that, everything comes from within, that everything is connected, everything is energy. Me speaking this right now is energy. You listening to it is a form of energy. But Ho'oponopono, to me, kicks it up to a whole new level. It took everything I had known up until this point and just kicked it up a notch, because it takes personal responsibility to a new level. And it just shows how powerful we are. How powerful we are when we choose to operate from a point of love and forgiveness, and how we can transmute that energy into love. And the statement in the book, Zero Limits, that really changed my life. And I will tell you, this is a life-changing statement for me. And hopefully it'll ring true or strike something in you as well. And what changed my view on reality is when he said, problems are just replayed memories of the past, showing up to give us one more chance to see with the eyes of love and act from inspiration. And I'm going to read that one more time because I feel like it's so powerful and I want it to sink in. He says, problems are just replayed memories of the past, showing up to give us one more chance to see with the eyes of love and act from inspiration. And that, to me, that was life-altering. It really, I think about this all the time. If you can just come at every problem from a point of love, you will change the energy and the dynamic of the problem, of the situation, of the person. It will transform your life. And you will see when you're acting from a place of love. And I believe that that's what he's telling us, and that's a big part of Ho'oponopono is I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you, right? It's taking that personal responsibility. And when everything comes from within, he's saying everything comes from within and everything is your responsibility. And every problem is a chance to see that problem through the eyes of love. To me, that means once you love yourself completely, what a beautiful world this will be. If everyone loved themselves so completely, their whole lives would transform. And in order to change the world around us, we must do it from within. And all I can say is this is a very, general overview of what Ho'oponopono is, but I think it is so amazing. The story of Dr. Lin and the mental hospital and how he cured those patients by looking at himself. What in himself was the problem that he needed to clean to help these people. And it's powerful, and it's something we can easily do every single day in our own lives. It doesn't take any tools. It doesn't take any money. You just need to be aware of the problems, be aware of the memories that are replaying that don't serve you, and clean them, as he says. And you do that by saying, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And like I said, go out. If you haven't read it, read Zero Limits. It is a life-changing book. Thank you to Eric at the Reiki Wellness and Meditation Center in Virginia Beach for turning me on to this whole concept in the book, and because it's really life-changing. And I will leave you with this today. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
You've been listening to the How Good It Can Get podcast. Remember, the power to transform your life is within you. So stay mindful, stay empowered, and keep embracing how good it can get.